Hey guys, Big Bear here again, covering the next section of my Tactica guide over magical items in the rulebook, and now we're on to Magic Standards, so let's get this going. Obviously, with Magic Standards, you have to have a Battle Standard Bearer to carry the Rampager Standard, but other than that, you can have a lot of units in the game are allowed to take a Magical Standard, usually up to 25 points. Some of the older books can do 50, but it has to specify, otherwise you can't do it. So if you're building a list with an army builder or something, which by the way is a great tool to help you know what you can and can't do, it'll highlight it for you and tell you it's legal or not. But if you don't, like I said, you need to make sure you read it, and it'll tell you whether you can take a standard or not. So good examples here, just so we cover it before I get into the items. I play Tomb Kings, as you all know. These chariot units can have, I think, up to 25 points of a magical standard, while my Tomb Guard can also have, I think, 40 points worth of magical standard, and my BSB can have magic standards, but that's it. So I can't really throw these things all over the place and hope that they do very good. So the first standard that we're going to cover is the Rampager standard. What this thing does lets you reroll your charge distance. Most of the time, like I said, you're going to have it on a BSB. It's not end-all be-all like a lot of the older rule books, the 7th edition ones. A lot of their standards, you got Beastmen with their +1 strength banner. I mean, even some of the newer books. I mean, with Tomb Kings, I have a banner that lets me basically Deep Strike or a unit behind you of 175 points, which is really good. So this thing has to compete against them. I think they could have probably done a little bit more to make it a little more appealing, but it's such a sensitive line. If they went too far with it, it would be in every single list, and yeah, you don't want to see that. That just makes the game monotonous. So with this thing here, the re-rolling charge distance, it's not bad. I mean, it's great on cavalry units that you want to get in there fast. Like, let's say you've had a unit of blood crushers that you wanted to get just slammed in there fighting as soon as possible. You roll in 3 dice, taking the 2 highest, you're already fast. You can make some really long charges with this thing. And since you already can take a magical standard anyway, give them the plus 1d6 charge range, so you could do like first turn charges. If you fail them, re-roll them. I mean, get in there fast and start killing, and this will throw a lot of people off. So while it's not a must-have, it is something you can do to mix up occasionally. Or if you're one of those people who really get sick of random charge distances. Now, in my opinion, with this edition, the random charge, a lot of people complain. I like it. Personally, in my own opinion, the old charging, you knew if you played the game long enough, you knew what exact charge ranges were, so you just dance around each other, and this adds a little element of surprise. You can plan on 7 plus your base speed, give or take some, and when it all boils down, like I said, if you are one of those people that don't like it, I have a friend that personally doesn't like the random charge. This lets him get that charge more often than not. So the next standard is the Wailing Standard. It causes terror in its enemies. This is great because you have to remember that terror not only causes terror, it also causes fear. So you're going to have people rolling fear tests against you, and in conjunction with things like Death and Shadow Magic, drop the leadership of the general by 3, or if you just get a unit on the flank, that could make them either break off the table when you charge, or roll the fear test and then their whole unit's weapon skill 1, so your guys can just go to town. And it's 50 points, so you can put it on your units, and you don't necessarily need a BSB to have this. So I like the banner a lot. I don't field it immensely, but I would mix it up from time to time, and I will mix it up from time to time, just so I have something, some other element of surprise there in my Orcs and Goblins army. The next standard is the Ranger standard. This one gives you Strider, which is basically an extra d6, drop the lowest, so your guys can get longer charges. It's kind of, to me, the poor man's Rampager standard. So, it's not much different, really. The only thing is the one lets you reroll. This one, gives you potential, I guess, to get higher. The other one lets you reroll, so, I mean, they're both really good. You might as well just save the 5 points most of the time and just take this guy. So the next one is the Razor Standard. I love this thing. A lot of people do, giving you armor piercing. This is great for units like Skaven, what are they called? Not the clan rat, Stormvermin. There we go. Stormvermin with this. Tomb Guard with hand weapon shield with this. That's giving them, strength 4, armor piercing. The list goes on and on and on. Anybody with armor piercing, big guns, you can just lay into people with your strength 4 attacks. You have ton of even strength 3 attacks. And do an immense amount of wounds. Like if you think, let's say you take a Night Goblin unit, you have 70 dudes in there, put a BSB in there with a Razor Standard, and just keep them hidden to a corner. You have 40 attacks coming at the enemy that are armor piercing. That's a big deal. When I get the Goblin spell in there to do armor piercing on my unit, they do a ton of wounds to elite infantry with just that. So if you think you're relying on a spell, this takes that out of that, so you're doing it all on your own. That's pretty good. So the next one is the War Banner. It's 35 points. I think it used to be 25 in last edition, and it kind of took a hit because +1 combat res isn't as big as a deal as in this edition as it was in the last one, because in last edition it was usually I win by 2. So your unit's -2, blah, 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 you break, you die. So in the old edition, I used to always take it on 1 unit because it would make you, +1. You would win by, maybe 1. That would make it +2. And then, oh god, they fail their leadership -2 and they're broken. You run them down. So it's still not bad. I think it's a little expensive for what it does. But I don't take it that often, I'll say that. But it's not horrible if you do. It's especially good when you get on a flank with a unit that'll take away ranks, and if you just need that little extra oomph in your unit to hold you in there. So the next one is Banner of Swiftness. This is a great banner, 15 points. A lot of units in the game can take this because it's so cheap, and it's kind of worth it. I mean, if you give it to unit of skeletons, for vampire counts, you have movement 5 skeletons. Over the course of the game, you march, that's +2 inches. You charge, that's an extra inch. Moving from left to right, that's extra inches. I mean, it just adds. It's one of those things that add up over time. So, over the course of the game, you just have to think that, this is going to help you when you charge somebody. If they go to flee, your movement 5, or if cavalry, their movement 9. Some are, most are movement 8 with barding, but you go to charge them, then your movement, like Bretonnian Knights, movement 10. Like, there's no way you're ever going to run from them because they're going to catch you. With flying units, you don't usually run from them because they'll get you. So, that's something to think about with that. The next one is the Lichbone Pendant. Gives your unit magic resistance 1. This thing shines really well with armies that already have magic resistance, or a ward save for that matter. So you put this on Phoenix Guard, they have a 3-up ward save against magic. This is really big with those guys because they're really expensive. Their main defensive ability their main ability period is that they just don't die. So putting this in there, magic really doesn't want to target them. A lot of people put the standard in there that makes them immune to magic, but with this right here, it's 15 points, so much cheaper, and you're basically immune to, you have 3-up save, 66% chance to pass. It's usually not worth going the distance and paying the extra points. Let's say if you lose 3 guys, okay, you can deal with that. So the next standard is the Standard Discipline. This is the most heavily used standard in Warhammer currently. With a lot of new people looking at why you can't use your general's leadership. It's sneaky because you can use your general's leadership, you just can't use his inspiring presence, which means that you can't be in his 12-inch bubble to get leadership. So what people do to get around this, you take Orc Biggins, they can take a magic standard, give them the Standard Discipline, and they put your general in that unit. So that makes my War Boss leadership 10. Now they're not using his inspiring presence, they're using his actual leadership because he's in the unit, and then every hit that actually makes him leadership 10. So every unit within 12 is actually becoming leadership 10. So that's a pretty good standard, especially for armies that rely on psychology techs like Orcs and Goblins, Empire, things of that nature, Skaven. And another thing that's good for, other than keeping your battle line intact, is that you can also use it on a unit that's on a flank all by itself. So you have a unit all the way over there, excuse my phone, you have a unit all the way over there, and what's once bitten? What do you use? You use the best of worst. He gives a standard to him sometimes, and they're like a rogue unit that can just run out on their own. So I mean that's a big deal for flanking and such, because you don't want a unit out there on its own. Usually the problem is that they don't have the leadership to do so, and this gives them that. So the next one is probably the second heaviest taken banner in Warhammer. It's the Banner of Eternal Flame. It gives you units flame attacks. The cool thing about this banner is that flame attacks, okay, it stops regeneration. That's what everybody knows it for. The other thing people don't know that it does is that when you're attacking targets in buildings, you get a reroll to wound and or hit. I don't remember, but it does make you do such. And the other thing that it does is that it causes fear in cavalry, dogs, and other such units that you go to the page in the rulebook, just look it up in the back, flaming, and it gives you a big description of what it does. It actually does quite a bit rather than just stop regeneration. So with that in mind, you're going to go after regeneration units. You're going to go after chariots and cavalry and dogs with this. And you also go after buildings. So for 10 points, allows you to be a lot more effective against those. It's definitely worth taking. It's usually in almost every tournament player's list. So the next standard is going to be the Gleaming Pendant. The cool thing about this thing is it's just like the standard of discipline in conjunction, which how you gonna do that? You have your general in there, and you're able to take the Gleaming Pendant. Then you're going to be able to do Leadership 9 re-rollable with his unit. Then you can have your BSB on the other side protecting the rest of your units. A big thing with this that I see that I haven't seen a lot of people do is splitting up an army with Bretonnians. You can have your general on one flank with all your cavalry. You can have a knight on foot with a whole bunch of peasants on the other flank, and have that banner in there somewhere. And then the standard bearer over there, you make him the standard, and there you go. You got Leadership 9 rerollable on that side, Leadership 10 on the other side. It's really good. So that's what you're probably. Excuse me. You're going to use this for that nature. And last one is Scarecrow Banner. 5 points, gives you fear against flyers. Not really that big of a deal. I know it's cheap, but if you're going for cheap, you're going to want to take the Gleaming Pendant. Like I said, if you fight a ton of flyers, it could be worth it, or for scenario games. But other than that, it's not all that impressive. So we have 2 more groups of items to go, and then we are done with this thing. So stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy.